Before going into my review, I want to preface that I've watched a ton of other reviews about the show, from those who hate it like Synthetic Man to people who love it like Chris Stuckman. I've heard so many reasons as to why other content creators either love or hate this season. But now, after watching it myself and reviewing each individual episode, I've come to my own conclusion. The Last of Us Season 2 isn't good. Unfortunately, I'm unable to show clips from Season 2 because HBO has been very strict about copyright, so instead, I'll be using The Last of Us gameplay footage. Since this video is pretty long, I've also included timestamps. This is how much I love you guys. Spoilers for everything related to The Last of Us. Okay, here we go. Reason 1. I can't buy into the acting, which is a result of a miscasting of characters. I have absolutely nothing against the actors themselves and don't condone any harassment toward them. But with that being said, the acting felt off. I'm sure Bella Ramsey is a fine actor, but the role of Ellie doesn't fit her. Her dialogue doesn't feel authentic and sound like lines read off a script. Caitlin Dever, who plays Abby, also feels miscast. There was a picture that was taken during filming that shows Caitlin Dever and Pedro Pascal hugging after the golf club scene in episode 2. Many people responded to this photo saying that Caitlin should have been the one to play Ellie, and I don't disagree with that. But in my opinion, Kaylee Spaney would have been the perfect Ellie. Dever and Spaney were two really good candidates that were passed up. And although it could have been due to a ton of reasons like lack of chemistry or politics, I can't help but feel like Kaylee Spaney could have really brought the character of Ellie to life. In regards to the other actors and their casting, I thought they did a pretty decent job. Young Mazzino looks very similar to the character of Jesse and plays his character well. Isabella Merced, despite not looking exactly like Dina, does a great job in giving the energy and liveliness her character requires. Tommy, who is portrayed by Gabriel Luna, does a great job as Tommy, even though he doesn't look like him and the writers did a horrible job shaping his personality. I'll touch more on that later. Pedro Pascal does a serviceable job as Joel. Generally speaking, his acting is decent in whatever project he's in, even when the role doesn't exactly suit him. But like Ellie, I can't shake the feeling that someone else might have been better suited to play him. For me, Hugh Jackman was that someone. If you ever seen the movie Prisoners, you could see where I'm coming from. In the film, Jackman plays Keller, the father of a daughter who's been kidnapped. There's a particular scene in here I'd like to point out. At one point, Keller kidnaps Alex, the suspected kidnapper, and begins to torture him for information about his daughter. To me, the way Hugh Jackman acts in the scene could be implemented perfectly into the Last of Us world. People say that the audience is weird for placing so much importance on how Ellie looks, but since this is a show based on an existing game, looks are important because it could either make or break the immersion. Going off the casting, one thing I found odd was the race swapping. In the games, Joel, Tommy, Tommy's wife, and Joel's daughter are all white. In the show, Joel and Tommy are played by Hispanic actors, Tommy's wife is black, and Joel's daughter is mixed. Now, I'm not against race swapping, but my question is why? Why did they decide to do this? What purpose does this serve to the story? Does it enhance it in some way I'm unaware of? I know the answer is probably representation, and that's fine. The actors for these characters did a good job, but if you look at this season in relation to the source material, the immersion takes a hit. Reason 2. Changes made in Joel's death scene made it a lot less impactful. Even though I didn't like the story of The Last of Us Part 2, Naughty Dog is capable of getting amazing actors and building suspense. I'm talking about Joel's death scene specifically because it's such an important scene that defines this season. In the game, the scene unfolds in a dimly lit basement, with the music heightening the sense of dread and tension. Once Joel is shot in the leg by Abby, we see Tommy react by fighting, but he's immediately pistol whipped until he's unconscious. Additionally, the little amount of dialogue allows Joel's death to take center stage and highlight how unforgiving this world has become. The acting by Troy Baker and Laura Bailey is undeniably fantastic and immersive. There's one line by Joel during this scene that really takes it home.
Why don't you say whatever speech you got rehearsed? Get this over with.
This one line speaks so much about Joel's character and mindset. He knows he's made so many enemies over the years, so trying to guess which one came back for revenge is useless. After saving Ellie and killing all those fireflies in the hospital, Joel's probably come to peace with the fact that there'll be retribution. By saying that line right after Abby asks him to guess her identity, it shows how Joel is a no-nonsense man who doesn't give a damn about anyone else besides his family. All of these factors help portray Joel's death as cold and brutal. It accomplishes what it set out to do. Compare this to the show. Instead of a dark basement, Joel's death occurs in the main living room of the lodge. There's big windows, and when you combine this with the fact that they're surrounded by snow, the room is incredibly bright. Instead of Tommy being brutally pistol whipped, Dina instead takes his place. And given the circumstances, Dina is treated pretty well. She's injected with an anesthetic and quickly drifts into unconsciousness. The acting by Pedro Pascal again is serviceable, however, Caitlin Deaver's delivery isn't as convincing for me, but maybe that's due to the writing. Another aspect the game had going for it was Abby's large stature. It's intimidating and commands attention. But Abby in the show is 5'2" and looks like a normal, attractive woman. So when it comes time to Joel's death, it just feels off. What's even worse is the dialogue. Like I said earlier, the game kept it to a minimum, allowing the action to take center stage. But the show has Abby monologuing for minutes. There's even a line in there about Joel being handsome, which breaks any sense of immersion I had left. Imagine telling your father's killer that he's handsome. What type of writing is this? Why did the showrunners Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin decide that Abby's line about Joel being handsome was necessary in a scene that basically defines The Last of Us Season 2? And while we see the no-nonsense Joel in the game refuse to play along with Abby's conversation, in the show, he's silent and allows Abby to monologue for minutes before interrupting her. And what Joel says in the show is a lot less badass than what was said in the game. Reason 3. Exposition dumping. The exposition dumping is insane in this show. It feels like the showrunners have no respect for the audience and their ability to piece things together. They felt the need to spell everything out to the viewer, which leaves no room for interpretation or thinking on the audience's end. It comes off as lazy. They betrayed one of the most basic rules in writing, which is show don't tell. There's so many places they could have easily implemented this rule. One example is the opening scene where we see Abby and her group mourning the Fireflies that were killed during Joel's quest to save Ellie. Abby states out loud that when we kill him, he dies slowly. By having her say this out loud, it removes any questions that would have lingered in the audience's mind. If Abby was shown mourning the graves with little to no dialogue, it leaves the audience with questions such as, who is she? Or how is she going to impact Joel and Ellie this season? Which is a good thing. By having it unresolved, it makes the viewers want to come back for more. Instead, the showrunners spoon-feed the characters' motivations and behaviors to us, which removes any form of uncertainty or interpretation. This is just one example, there are plenty more out there. Example 1, Joel in therapy where he talks about how Ellie is being a stranger to him. Example 2, the scene where the therapist talks to Joel about Eugene. Example 3, Nora explained to Ellie what Joel did before Ellie tortures her. I want to touch on this scene because it's important. In the game, Nora only has a couple lines of dialogue that asks Ellie to think about Joel's actions.
Think about what he did. How many people are dead because of him?
But in the show, they have Nora explicitly explain what Joel did to the Fireflies, as if it hadn't been made painfully obvious to us by now. Reason 4. Plot armor. Surprise, surprise, I'm talking about episode 4 because there's so much to pick from in that episode. There's a scene where Ellie and Dina are running from infected and try to exit the station through a rusted turnstile, except Dina can't make it through. As an infected lunges toward Dina to bite her, Ellie sticks out her arm to shield her, giving Dina enough time to break free. So when the infected bites Ellie, we see it leave only a surface level wound that barely bleeds. This is plot armor. If it were anyone other than Ellie in this scene, their entire arm, or at least a large chunk of it, would have been ripped completely off. The infected in the show are portrayed as relentless and extremely dangerous. Hell, in episode 2, when Jackson was being overrun by the infected, we got a first-hand glimpse in how deadly they truly are. For one of them to have the opportunity to bite Ellie and leave such a surface level wound breaks the immersion. Episode 5 has even worse plot armor and bad decision making. When Dina and Ellie are in a building full of stalkers, we see Dina run into a cage to protect herself. As she locks herself in, a stalker tries to attack her. For some reason, Ellie shoots the stalker, despite Dina being right behind it. Did Ellie not understand that she could have easily missed and shot Dina by accident? Even worse, we see at least 3 stalkers overpower Ellie and are on top of her. During this time, the infected don't seem to even touch her. If it were the game, Ellie would have been sent to heaven in seconds, but the plot armor allows for her to be saved by Jesse. Reason 5. Identity crisis. The showrunners seem to struggle with Season 2's identity. Is it a revenge story, or is it a romance? I'm not saying this season can't balance multiple topics and plots, but the way it's structured ruins the pacing and believability. If you just watched episode 4 in a vacuum, you'd have no idea that the most important character died 2 episodes ago. In episode 2, Joel, who's Ellie's surrogate father, is killed by Abby. In episode 3, we see Ellie is naturally devastated by this death, but by episode 4, Ellie seems to be totally unaffected by it. Throughout this entire episode, I didn't get any feeling that Ellie was still mourning Joel. Any reasonable person who saw their father brutally killed with a golf club would carry deep trauma for a long time, but Ellie's acting as if it didn't happen at all. In the game, Ellie acts and sounds like her entire world has been taken from her, like she has this empty void inside that can't be filled until she kills Abby. In the show, we see her having normal conversations with Dina about Frank Zappa and Fleetwood Mac. This breaks the immersion for me. And this acting in episode 4 isn't even the type of behavior where Ellie is trying to mask her true feelings. It's like her feelings for Joel are non-existent. Like all the bonding that took place in season 1 didn't happen. And yeah, you could argue that her performing Take On Me was a direct callback to Joel, but that still doesn't work for me. That isn't enough to justify the rest of her behavior in the episode. Additionally, whenever we get these romantic scenes, there's no sense of dread or threat of infected coming. They're always non-existent when Ellie and Dina are bonding. There's a comment I found that sums up my thoughts exactly, and it goes like this. I feel like having the giggling stage of the Ellie-Dina relationship overlap with the "we're here to murder 7 people" part of the relationship is just a weird vibe. Reason 6. Changes to Ellie's character. We see another change in how the characters behave during Ellie's journey to kill Abby. In the games, Dina goes with Ellie simply because it's Ellie, but in the show, Dina is shown to be the voice of reason to Ellie's recklessness and impulsive decisions. There are multiple instances where Ellie decides to do something impulsively and Dina has to intervene, stop her, and force her to reconsider her actions. For example, when Ellie tells Dina she's gonna kill Abby, she asks Ellie questions like what route she's gonna take to Seattle and whether she has any medical supplies. By making Dina the voice of reason, it has the unintended effect of making Ellie look incompetent, reckless, and childish. These traits are seen in episode 4 when Ellie carelessly opens the door to a tank and it causes an extremely loud sound that causes them to draw their weapons. An example where she acts childish is when Tommy takes her off patrol and assigns her to gate watch. We see her basically throw a temper tantrum. Going back to episode 4, we also see Dina tell Ellie she's pregnant. Right after this reveal, they immediately have sex. Compare this to the game. Instead of having sex, Ellie is initially taken aback. She then implies that their entire journey has changed because of this.
We could have still turned back.
I didn't know. I wasn't sure, okay? I didn't want to be a burden.
Well, you're a burden now, aren't you?
Now, this behavior is understandable and logical because discovering your partner is pregnant while on a dangerous journey to kill someone would make any rational person angry. In the show, even if we forget the fact that Ellie's fingernails are probably dirty while they do the stuff, it's so weird seeing this. Sure, we see Dina exposition dump to us as to why she did it. She says it's because she thought her future with Ellie was over, so finding out she'll live really turned her on, but I don't think it's believable. This immediate turn to sex is not the type of behavior you'd expect Ellie to engage in, because she's supposed to be focused on hunting Abby down. Additionally, Ellie would still be traumatized from witnessing Joel die in front of her eyes, as the memory remains painfully fresh. If Ellie is really traumatized from Joel's death, I really think sex would be the last thing on her mind. You could argue that people process trauma differently, sure, but again, I'll go back to the fact that during this entire episode, Ellie doesn't give me the vibe she's affected by Joel's death in the slightest, and episode 5 manages to worsen Ellie's personality. I could talk about Ellie being referred to as non-school oriented, but I'll explain what I find even more problematic. We see Dina give an exposition dump about the first person she killed. She does this to inspire Ellie to finish what they started. At that moment, Dina appears far more motivated to seek justice for Joel than Ellie is. This is Ellie's story, but by the sound of it, it's Dina's. Because other than Ellie's immediate reaction to Joel dying in the morning that takes place afterward, we have gotten no indication that Joel's death had any lasting impact on her. It's so bad that Dina needed to encourage Ellie to continue moving forward. But Ellie shouldn't need any form of encouragement at this point. Watching Joel being brutally killed in front of her eyes should have been more than enough. Reason 7. Changes made in Joel and Tommy's interactions, or lack thereof. In the show, season 2 opens with Abby mourning the Fireflies, Ellie managing to submit a dude 3 times her size, and Joel going to therapy. And during this therapy session, Joel subtly uses the euphemism, "I saved her," with a therapist, concealing the violent truth of killing the Fireflies. This veiled language undermines the show in one notable way. This lessens the bond between Joel and Tommy. In the game, part 2 opens with Joel revealing to Tommy that he killed the Fireflies to rescue Ellie. Now, Joel technically doesn't tell Tommy he killed the Fireflies, he also uses that euphemism, "I saved her," but Tommy can easily deduce that he did kill the Fireflies. This is crucial because we get a reminder that these two are brothers. But in the show, there is zero interaction between them in season 2, which really weakens their connection. Their last meaningful moment together was probably mid-season 1, which was so long ago. Additionally, replacing Tommy with Dina in Joel's death scene further erodes their bond. Although Tommy is unconscious in the game, Joel saying his name after being shot in the leg by Abby is heartbreaking. The absence of any interaction between them in season 2 significantly diminishes their relationship. I also don't like how they made changes to Tommy's character. We see in the game how Tommy is portrayed in the sense that he usually keeps Maria in the loop regarding decisions, but after Joel's death, he goes rogue. relentlessly pursuing Abby in a quest for vengeance. But in the show, he stays back in Jackson after it's overrun by infected. On the surface, it seems like a noble act, but I don't know. I feel like most people who have brothers wouldn't let something like that slide. Especially in a world where anything goes, Tommy not leaving Jackson to hunt Abby betrays the unspoken loyalty that binds brothers in a way only they could truly grasp. This makes Tommy appear weak, especially because Joel wasn't just killed, he was brutally tortured by someone wearing identifiable clothing, so it's very much possible for Tommy to track them down. I also noticed that Tommy just doesn't appear in the season that much in general. Reason 8. Tommy's wife, Maria. Now when talking about Maria, I don't remember much about her personality in the games, so I'll only be analyzing her television counterpart. In a scene, Maria and Joel discuss the settlement's struggle to accommodate an influx of newcomers due to limited space. As the town leader, Maria declares we need to build faster, citing the shortage of housing. Joel responds that the workers are already exhausted, toiling around the clock with inadequate resources to meet the demand. Maria's insistence on building faster feels shockingly short-sighted for a leader in a zombie apocalypse. It's a simplistic and almost naive statement, as if Joel and the workers wouldn't already be doing so if it were possible. Resources are obviously scarce, and while Maria likely knows this, her blanket directive comes across as disconnected and oddly out of touch. I want to note that Maria is a pretty small criticism relative to everything else I've mentioned. Reason 9. The clothes that the characters wear are too clean, which breaks the immersion. Despite having beautiful and massive set pieces, they failed the simple act of having the characters wear realistic, raggedy clothes. In most, if not all the scenes, we see how the characters' clothes are so clean, you'd think they just got them from the cleaners. For instance, and I'm gonna keep going back to episode 4, after Ellie and Dina narrowly escape from the underground tunnel where it was filled with infected, they take refuge in a nearby theater, sleep on the floor, and wake up looking like this. Contrast this with another popular zombie show, The Walking Dead. Despite all the problems I have with The Walking Dead, one thing I can't knock them on is how the characters look like they truly lived in the world. Just look at Rick Grimes in season 5. This is how someone should look like in the zombie apocalypse. The best part of season 2. Episode 6. Okay, so far I've been incredibly critical of the show, but I'll now talk about my favorite episode, episode 6. Maybe it's partly due to the fact that we see Ellie treat Joel like an actual human being. I still gotta give Bella Ramsey some credit this episode. I enjoyed her performance during the flashbacks. I think Bella is capable of doing the childlike wonder side of Ellie, but not the hellbent on revenge side of Ellie. I liked how they used Eugene's story as a way for Ellie to find out Joel lied about the Fireflies, and having Joel's reveal take place on the porch was also a welcome change. However, there were still some problems that can't be overlooked. Joel's actions in this episode feel contradictory to his portrayal in the show. The series depicts him as softer and more empathetic than his game counterpart, yet his handling of Eugene's situation, killing and preventing him from seeing his wife, feels uncharacteristic. Joel, who understands the pain of losing loved ones, would likely empathize with Eugene's desire. In the game, this ruthlessness would fit his hardened nature, but it clashes with the show's more emotional version. Additionally, the flashback scenes of Joel and Ellie bonding as father and daughter, coupled with Ellie's attempt to forgive Joel, amplify the emotional weight of Joel's death. Yet Ellie's journey to hunt Abby shows little of this grief, greatly undermining the impact established here. I know I spoke extensively about Ellie's indifference, but I can't emphasize enough how crucial it is to get Ellie's behavior right, because Joel and Ellie's relationship is the soul of the show. Although I like this episode a lot, it had the unintended effect of making Ellie's behavior look even worse. Episode 4 and 5 are a perfect example of this. The worst part of season 2, the finale. The season finale takes the fucking cake for how bad it is. So this episode starts off with Ellie revealing to Dina what Joel did and saying that maybe Nora didn't deserve what happened to her. This already undermines their entire journey to kill Abby, because once Dina hears this, they all agree to go back to Jackson once they get Tommy. At this point, it's clear that Ellie has no fire left in her and is more than willing to go back to Jackson. But on their way to find Tommy, Ellie and Jesse hide behind a dumpster as a random Seraphite is taken and presumably killed by WLF. Jesse reveals that he voted no when the Jackson Council voted to find Joel's killers, and Ellie blows up on him. She heavily criticizes Jesse for not allowing her to intervene when they were hiding behind the dumpster, and says that Jesse would be doing the exact same thing if he were in Ellie's shoes. She emotionally tells Jesse how her community was killed in front of her eyes. This doesn't track for 3 main reasons. 1. Just earlier in the episode, Ellie appears to be totally fine with going back to Jackson. She didn't protest whatsoever, but for some reason, after seeing the aquarium, she's suddenly overflowing with motivation to hunt Abby down. Her desires turn on a dime, and when you have a character whose motivations change constantly, you no longer have a good character. 2. Ellie claims Jesse is a hypocrite because he claims to be a good person, yet he let that Seraphite die. Are we forgetting that they were outnumbered, outarmed, and they need to get Dina and her unborn baby home? This is the zombie apocalypse. You only get one life, and people are insane. Jesse not intervening is something every rational person would do, especially since he's going to be a father. You can't save everyone. Ellie, who supposedly lived her entire life in the apocalypse, should have realized this fact long ago. 3. Ellie saying Jesse would do the exact same thing if he were in her shoes is flat out wrong. Sure, anybody who saw their loved one die in front of their eyes would want revenge, but I'm sure Jesse wouldn't keep going after finding out his partner was pregnant or have sex with them. Jesse would pursue the target, complete his mission, and return home without getting sidetracked. Conclusion. I know this video is super long, so I'll be condensing my general thoughts about this season in the next minute or two. Bella Ramsey isn't Ellie, Caitlin Dever isn't the worst Abby, but she probably would have been a better Ellie. Caitlin Dever is also hot, so it makes it hard for me to see her as a villain. But most of the fault isn't toward the actors. A majority of the blame goes to showrunners Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin. They failed this show on a fundamental level. They miscast the most important characters and did a horrible job with the writing. Additionally, they implemented changes that deviated from the game in a way that demonstrates a lack of understanding of the relationships between characters. Examples include not showing Joel and Tommy interacting at all during season 2, which really weakens their bond, and having Ellie portrayed as an impulsive, trigger-happy oaf. Tommy was severely underutilized, and Jesse's character was again disrespected. Although the set pieces and overall world building is amazing, that only shows me that they focused on style over substance. I predict season 3 will not be received well by audiences for 2 main reasons. The fact that it's not coming out until 2027, and that it's essentially a whole season worth of flashbacks. We're likely stuck waiting until season 4 for the main story to move on, as season 3 shifts to Abby's perspective and rewinds the timeline. Lastly, there's some media outlets out there that say the negative reviews about The Last of Us Season 2 is a result of viewers having a problem with women being spotlighted. Let me say this, most viewers don't have a problem with women being spotlighted. In fact, when done right, they love it. For example, Telltale's The Walking Dead. You were lying if you didn't root for Clementine and wanted to protect her at all costs. Clementine was such a great character in The Walking Dead, and I doubt anybody would disagree with that. The viewers aren't anti-women, all they want is a good story. So what steps should HBO take to make season 3 a show that truly honors its characters and story? I have the answer. It's actually quite simple. Bring back Bruce Straley.